Hey girl, I see you. You've come a long, long way. You're not alone anymore. Come sit with me and tell me your story. You've come a long way, girl. Pulled yourself out of quite the mess. Those were some dark times back then, but it's all over now. You're not alone anymore. Come sit with me and tell me your story. This is Truckin' with Tamie, where your journey's heard and your voice is free. You're not alone, come share your story with me.
Welcome back, everybody. So before we get started, I just want to say the views and opinions shared on this episode are those of the host and guests and are for informational and conversational purposes only. They do not necessarily represent the views of any organization, company, sponsor, or platform affiliated with this show. So, out of the way with that, welcome back to Trucking with Tamie, where your voice always matters. So, today we are talking about something that every truck driver knows is a real issue in this industry: safe truck parking. And it's not just finding a spot at the end of the day, but finding a place where drivers can feel secure, have access to the things they need, and they're being treated like they're professionals, right? So today, my guest, Jeff Swenson, is a real estate developer of Linehaul Station. And if you haven't heard about it, it's a new trucking terminal designed for owner operators, small carriers, and those truck drivers who need a safe place to park with real amenities. I can't even talk today. Real amenities, people. So we're going to talk about what inspired Linehaul Station, the growing need for better truck parking options, and how projects like this can help support you. So welcome to the show, Jeff. It's so great to have you.
Thanks, Tammy. Good to be here.
Yes. So let's kind of give the folks an idea of who you are first, and then we'll dive into what you created and your vision and where we're going to go with it.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, appreciate everyone joining us here today. Looking forward to this. This will be an hour of fun. So, my background, I grew up as a kid in Minnesota, moved to Arizona when I was about 16 years old, have been involved in the real estate development business there, doing, primarily boutique niche kind of products that were generally high end developments, and got involved with trucking in 2016, working with a company called Tri-State Motor Transit. It was an acquisition by another trucking company. A friend of mine was the CEO. He said, "Hey, Jeff, we're buying this other company. It comes with a bunch of terminals and real estate around the country. Can you help us out?" And I had been involved in building a truck stop up in North Dakota and doing some workforce housing with the oil boom. And I'm like, "John, I don't really know anything about trucking." He goes, "Oh, don't worry, you'll figure it out. Come on, let's go do this," right? So we flew to Joplin, Missouri, which was the home terminal for Tri-State Motor Transit, which was a carrier that had been around for about almost 85 years. They're the largest hauler of arms, ammunitions, and explosives in the industry. Very cool company. And the terminal was aging. It needed some freshening up, if you will. And so we were working on the office and doing a new training center. And the first day that I was there, he walked me into this old building that had basically been mothballed. And it was the original building on their terminal campus that they used for the shop, the office, the whole deal. And there was about 2,000 feet of it that was open. And we walk in and it's gold couches and vending machines and big box TVs and exposed plumbing underneath the sinks and these skinny showers, the microwave sitting up on top of a washing machine. And I'm like, "John, what the heck is this thing?" And he says, "Well, it's a driver's lounge." And I'm like, "Explain that to me. What's it? How's that work?" So he did. And I go, "God, this is just horrific. Like, this is how drivers are treated." I couldn't believe it. And he said, "Yeah, and it's pretty much rampant across the industry." And I said, well, isn't there a driver shortage, or, at least I keep reading about that. Oh yeah, there's a problem with getting good drivers. There's a lot of drivers out there, but the quality is starting to be a little less desirable, and we need to get better drivers in it. And I said, well, why don't we lead on that and take this building and gut it and turn it into kind of a world-class driver's lodge. Give it some personality, give it some character and some quality. When drivers come in, they feel like they can really kick their feet up and rest and relax and enjoy it. Not this crappy little room that you have now. And he says, I love it. Let's do it. So we gutted the building. And Tamie, it came out so cool. I mean, we hand built our own chandeliers out of hand hewn wood and metal, and just, super cool stuff. We built a flatbed trailer that we used for events, and, kind of a buffet, right? All the way around.
Oh, wow.
Events there. We had overhead glass garage doors that would spill out onto a big patio with a fire pit and a barbecue area. The men's and women's restrooms were and shower rooms were more akin to a country club than they were a driver's lounge. And then we added what I realized is that their last step of orientation was really recruiting still, right? They were on board. And I didn't realize that initially. And I thought, well, we need to have this training center out in the lodge so that when they take their breaks, they come in and, the kitchen in there is literally a gourmet kitchen, all commercial grade appliances, beautiful granite countertops, alder wood. I mean, beautiful cabinetry, laundry center, exact same way. And I said, when they come out of their training sessions, they can come in, lunch can be set up, they can really enjoy and kick back and see what it is. And, we have big screen TVs and a 14-foot wide, floor to ceiling stone fireplace and billiards and shuffleboard and the whole deal. So
nice.
We did all of that. Yeah, it's so cool. If you go online and Google Legacy Lodge Joplin, it'll come up and you'll see some of the pictures, but it really came out great. Well, the result was drivers that had been in the industry for, 40 years kind of thing came up to me and they said, Jeff, I've been driving all this time. I've never seen anything like it. This is the coolest thing ever. Would you build them around the country? And I was like, maybe. I like projects like this. I was really enamored with the trucking industry. I'd learned a ton over this period of time that I spent with Tri-State, not only doing that terminal, but other terminals and drop yards around the country. And I really enjoyed it. This was kind of right, down the center of the fairway for me. So I was helping people. I was helping to transform an industry. I was solving problems that the industry was having, with recruiting, retention, finding quality drivers, giving them the right experience, paying respect to those that are working hard, all of those things, right? Kind of folded into this. Right. So I embarked on a path to figure out, could I make this work? Well, the first thing that you start doing when you're building that model is, what's the economics of it? What's it going to cost me to build these things? And I spent a lot of time talking to general contractors. We did a full study of truck terminals around the country, what they'd sold for, how that related to a tractor trailer space. And it's super interesting when you get behind the numbers on all of this, because a lot of people don't realize the cost to build a brand new tractor trailer space is $165,000 on average. Now it'll vary. It's enormous, and it's not rocket science in doing the math. Pick up a phone and call a concrete company and tell them you want 1 acre of high pressure concrete at 10.5 inches thick, and listen to what they tell you. That cost is about $700,000 an acre. Okay, just on concrete. You look at land prices around the country. Some areas, $200,000-$300,000 an acre. Some areas maybe even a little bit less, but pretty remote. And then you get into markets like Charlotte and Phoenix and, Dallas. And all of a sudden you're at $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million an acre. You go to Southern California, you're $4 million an acre. You start doing all the math of what it costs to build that. And a typical 10-acre terminal with a small shop and office, and you got to have the driving areas, the lanes for, to adequately navigate around, of which we plan for about 115-foot wide lanes so that trucks can easily back in, 12-foot wide spaces, 85 feet deep for a tractor trailer, yada, yada, yada. We've done all of that kind of design work. It works out to $165,000 a space. Well, that's about the same price as a truck today. And, and so you wouldn't buy a truck and let it sit unseated, would you? It's all about asset utilization.
Yeah.
And that's true of truck terminals and truck parking as well. You can't afford to just let it sit there vacant. And so when drivers talk about, and look, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for what's in the market today, the lack thereof, and the problems associated with it, the truck stop experience that, so many complain about, understandably so, eating hot dogs off a roller wheel and not being able to find a spot to park. And now the truck stops are starting to charge. And part of the reason they're starting to charge is because drivers are coming in, parking, and they're not going into the convenience store and buying that food, buying those snacks, which are all inflated. We're all paying for truck parking no matter what. One way or another, you're paying for truck parking because you're either paying for it in fuel and groceries, food, snacks, accessories, all the stuff they sell, or you're paying it, physically as a cost for parking specifically. And more, they're going to a hybrid because they found drivers are pulling in, not buying stuff in the store, and they got to make their economics work. They got to cover their costs, right? So we all have a cost associated with it. It's just, how do you package it in a way that it makes sense and works,
right.
and you get the right experience? So that was kind of my inspiration for going out there and saying, can I create a solution by way of a product that helps the industry at large? And I mean everybody, drivers first. And part of our goal is giving the power back to the drivers, giving the drivers opportunities that they didn't have before to work with companies that really want to support them. Carriers and brokers in their business operations, they don't take their management people, their sales people, and send them to another city and say, hey, when you get there, jump in this truck that's sitting over at the petrol. You need to sleep there, and then you can go inside and pay for your own hot dog off the roller deal, or some basket of mystery food, and that's your dinner for the night. No, they put them up at a nice hotel. They have an allowance for dinner. They might even get a bottle of wine. They're comfortable, right?
Yep.
So why not
Absolutely.
truck drivers? Yeah. Why are truck drivers slighted in such a different way? And look, I understand, particularly when freight rates are compressed, the market's down, it's tough to make things pencil. Brokers were not making as much money as I think some drivers believe. Carriers were getting hit pretty hard with the rates that were out there. So, there's compromises, right? But that doesn't mean that drivers should have to be sleeping on an off-ramp or in a random parking lot somewhere, or, the side of a road where it's illegal, and, always having to be compromised in this. And I believe that carriers and brokers should be paying for drivers to do this. If you're a small carrier working for a broker, those brokers should be supporting you in this way. Now, look, you running on, that driver, that trucker, because they have DOT authority or they're an owner operator, they have responsibility for the cost of running their truck. I get that. And so in some cases that falls back to them. But I think the smartest brokers are going to say to those carriers, hey, look, you work with us on doing so many loads, we're going to buy you passes to Linehaul Station. We're going to give you a whole different experience, because we're less about truck parking than we are about building infrastructure and an ecosystem that raises the bar in terms of quality of life for drivers, convenience, all of that. So when we think about Linehaul Station, to kind of give you try to help with you with a visual and description of what it is, our prototype is a 50-acre site. It's all with top level concrete, high pressure, so it doesn't bust up, high pressure, thick concrete. The terminals are gated, access controlled. There's surveillance cameras. We don't want any bad actors. I point blank tell any drivers, truckers out there that if you're the kind of character that thinks you can throw stuff out on the lot, bottles, vile things, you're not our member. We don't want you, period. Right. And if we catch you doing it, which we will, because we're putting up numerous cameras around the property with surveillance systems in place that catch it, they catch the person, they catch the truck they're getting into, they catch the license plate numbers, the whole deal, your membership is canceled as quick as that. Now that may sound harsh, one strike rule, but no one should be doing that, right? And who it benefits is the truckers that have great character, that have pride in themselves, pride in their truck, pride in how they live, respect for themselves. That's the group of people we're catering to. Those are the drivers we really want to help long term.
So when you create the country club of driving facilities, the country club terminal, then you want the country club mentality member.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So, our kind of keeping with that visualization of what this is, the centerpiece to it, if you will, is about a 70,000 square foot building that will have multiple bays of fleet service on the first level, along with truck wash. So, inspections, routine maintenance, obviously repairs, not overhauls or transmission rebuilds or things like that, but, basic, belts, hoses, brakes, tires, batteries, the main oil changes, of course, lube changes, the inspections, both standard and elevated and annual DOT and all of that. And we're trying to help create that ecosystem where, the plan is to build 50 of these around the country. That number may grow, but we've identified 50 locations. It hits the biggest major metropolitan markets. We park them or site them, if you will, somewhere between 20 to 60 miles away from the outer loop of the city on the major interstate. Easy on off, come in, secure, surveillance, well lit, nice, clean, come into the club, get your truck worked on while you're up hanging out in the Outriders Club. And the Outriders, our Outriders Club is both the people, the members, the drivers that make up this organization that is designed to restore camaraderie in the industry, that brotherhood and sisterhood of drivers that seems to have gotten so lost, right? Being able to sit down and break bread together, have a cup of coffee and a roll together in the morning, talking trucking, reinvigorating this attitude of having each other's back, being around, people you want to be around, right? And we're creating a referral program off of it that we call Top 10 Truckers, which is designed for us to help build the membership with the people that you like hanging out with as a driver. So any one of us could write down a list of 10 people that we know, right? That we'd like to hang out with. We'd like to have dinner with, a drink with, tell stories, share experiences, help each other. We all have that 10. And that's why we call it Top 10 Truckers. And the idea is that by getting, and the reward for it is that we have a Founders Pass. And the Founders Pass allows those who help us build it big and fast will get free access to Linehaul Station for the duration of their career.
And that is awesome.
It is People love this program because it's easy, and they would have done it anyhow. They would have gone out. I have one driver I'm doing a ride with next week in his bus from St. Louis to Memphis, which is where our first terminal is opening, and 4.5 hours, and we're doing a podcast from there for that 4.5 hours, just to talk about, the glory days of trucking, where trucking is today, some of the issues that are out there, how we're trying to solve them, and the future of trucking. So, for me, I'm 64 years old. I've had plenty of success in my life. This is a passion project for me. I have never, ever in all of my career been so excited about building something that truly can have a transformative effect to America. The trucking industry, the people that order goods. There is so many cool things that come out of this, because this is infrastructure for trucking, and it's infrastructure in a very different way than we've ever had. And it's exciting.
So we're going to talk about that infrastructure. So I'm going to rein you in a little bit.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that infrastructure. So we have a gated community, right? We have plenty of space for trucks to navigate. We have a building with this expansive maintenance department that you're going to be offering these services. So right now, when truck drivers go to a service station, right, and their truck goes in the bay, where do they go? They're sitting in a chair by the counter for God knows how many hours.
Yeah.
Some of these truck stops have taken out their diners and their restaurants and don't even have seating anymore.
Yeah.
But you've created a whole megaplex
Yes.
of amenities that they're going to have. So would you mind walking us through all the amenities that Linehaul Station is going to provide for these drivers?
So yes, absolutely, I will. And what I'll say is, we all know the old saying, "A picture's worth 1,000 words," right?
Absolutely.
And if you go to our website, you'll see renderings. This is not AI, by the way, folks. I've heard people go, "Oh yeah, that's more AI." This is not AI. This is experienced architects, experienced real estate development people, experienced trucking people that have come together and provided input into an architectural plan that has been hand drawn, then computer animated to those drawings with CAD systems. And that's what you're going to see on our website. When you walk into the Outriders Club, which
It's
is
linehaulstation.com, right?
Yeah, Linehaul. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
I'm going to add that to the live here.
Linehaulstation.com. And there are loads of images on there to help paint that picture of what it's all about. So,
all right, there goes.
To verbally walk you through, right? You're coming in. First of all, I love this piece because it was kind of my aha one day. I love architecture, and I go, how do we take the logo of our? I don't know if you can see it on my shirt here, but the LH, right? We integrated the LH into a glass and stone facade. That's the entry to the Private Drivers Club, right?
Nice.
Yeah, it's so cool. So you open up these doors, you come up kind of this grand staircase to the second level, or take the elevator, whichever. And above is about 30,000 square feet of members grill and driver amenities. And so the members grill, big, everything that I've always kind of done has been built on the premise of use a lot of stone, natural woods, rich materials, leather chairs and bar stools. Make it feel like a private club. That was my goal. Make it feel like a private club and get the best members. Bring them in. Give them an experience that they haven't been able to find for decades. That's what we're looking for. This is not a commercial truck stop.
Nope.
This is not a commercial truck stop. This is a private club infrastructure program for truckers that deserve the best. Simple as that. And frankly, we think and we believe we have a path to get the carriers and the brokers to pay for this for most drivers. And I'll walk you through a few of those programs in a bit. But, again, kind of doing a walking tour here. There's the Members Grill, super cool. You'll see it on the website, beautiful pictures. It's going to be how it feels. It has an outdoor
What's
patio.
a grill?
Pardon me?
You're literally, it's going to be like a restaurant, and it's going to be staffed all the time.
It's a sit-down restaurant. Yeah, we call it a Members Grill, right?
You hear those words, truck drivers? Sit down. Those are the key words here. It's a sit-down restaurant.
That's right.
That thing that we've been losing in our industry, he's bringing that back.
Yeah.
So I just want you to
really
sit with
nice,
that for a second.
Yeah, really nice, hefty barrel, leather barrel chairs kind of a thing where you sit down and you go, gosh, I feel comfortable right now, right? So, yeah, I want them to have that experience. They deserve that experience. But I also expect that when those drivers come in, they've gotten showered up. It's like walking into a nice restaurant, right? You look good, you feel good, you're dressed well.
Okay.
There's no reason that we can't restore some of that great image of what I remember drivers as when I was a kid. The truck was polished, the chrome was shining, the headlights were just, immaculate. Everything about it was super clean. And those drivers, I remember them at least. I'm 64 years old, right? So this goes back a ways, but 50 years, right? But I remember those drivers, nice clean jeans, polished pair of boots, nice shirt. They look great. They sat down, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're talking about trucking. Friends of mine were in the bee business, and they had their own trucks and ran them from Monroe, Louisiana up to Minnesota. And I just remember those days. Those, to me, it's the glory days. So how do we reinvigorate that, right? So the Members Grill is part of it. The shower rooms. I'm not talking about shower rooms where, some low-level employees there with a dirty mop water, chemical bottle, spraying it up. You walk in and you kind of got to hold your nose because it smells so bad. I'm talking about a shower room that feels like a master bath in a custom home. Really nice tile, nice mirrors, good, clean, real clean, not chemical clean, real clean, like steam blast, hot water kind of clean, right? That is just super comfortable with benches and hooks and everything you need, just like you're in your own bathroom, a really nice bathroom. So that was key to me. A fitness center. I know younger truckers for sure. I'm terrible about, working out and all that kind of stuff all the time, right? So I'm not one here to talk, but I know a lot of people are much more fitness minded. So we want a nice fitness center for me to be able to get that workout, take their shower, come into the Members Grill. Or maybe they go into the Digital Den, which is our spot where computers are set up and they can get online and, play the games around the world. I'm not much of a gamer, but I know a lot of drivers that are gamers and they love it. And you get the cool chairs and you get the joysticks and all the stuff that you need. And there's the Digital Den, right? And then we have, what I'd call a more traditional entertainment room with, billiards and shuffleboard and a trap and skeet simulator, maybe an F1 simulator, things like that where they can do that. So that's all kind of on the second level. And there's different hangout spots, right? Just sit back and relax, fireplace. The outdoor patio down below, off the Members Grill, has a couple of big fire pots, in just a very cool setting out there with tables and chairs. Or you can go up to our sky deck. And the sky deck will have cornhole. It'll have fire pits. It'll be landscaped. It's a sky deck. Go up, hang out, look at the stars if you want. Just chill and enjoy it. And you can be sitting there instead of some crappy little waiting room while your truck's getting the oil changed, as an example, right?
Right. I believe I also saw on the website where you have a barbershop.
Yes. Yeah. We're planning a barbershop in there. What else did I miss? I'm not
So
sure.
I got the website up. That's what I've been looking at over here.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through some of these pictures and amenities you have listed, and I'm going to ask you about each one and have you just elaborate on each one at a time. Okay.
Okay.
So let's start. The amenities you have listed are the locker rooms.
Yeah.
So these look like pretty good size locker rooms that are right around like the style of a gym. So these lockers in here, are these like daily use? Are
Yeah.
these how do you have them set up?
Yeah, there'll be day lockers with a code that you punch in. Oh, think of it like a safe in a hotel room. When you walk in, you punch in your own code, you put your stuff in there, it locks. When you come back, you punch in your own code, you take the stuff out, and it resets, right?
Nice,
For the
nice.
next person. Yeah.
Private shower suites, fitness studio, vintage barber shop, apparel and gear shop. So you have things that maybe drivers may need when they're out on the road.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you throwing in the gear shop?
Yeah, so the gear shop is really kind of, I'll call it basic sundries, right?
Okay.
You're not feeling well, you got, indigestion, so you need some Pepto-Bismol or Tums or something like that, a headache, aspirin, basic stuff. We're not running a C-store, okay? So
it's
it's not
gonna be kind of like what a hotel offers.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to frame it. Yeah. So it's not expansive in that way, but then we have all the the Linehaul Station swag, all of our own logo gear for sweatshirts and hats and T-shirts and things like that, and we have a great designer that's worked on all of that, and a great relationship with a printing company that pulls it together, and I take pride in how I dress, so when we put our program together, it's me picking out what the quarter zip looks like, the quality of the T-shirt, the quality of the sweatshirt and the hat. It's not cheap stuff. It's nice stuff. It's quality stuff. And we don't look at that as, God, we got to have, 8 bazillion% markup or something like that. We're just really, this is about doing something that's fair for truckers, but is good quality. I don't want to compromise on quality. I never have. No. I never will. Right. So, is it going to be $20 a night for, to just pull in and do that kind of a thing? No, it's not. And we can talk more about how that really works. Those are the dues. So you may be able to get that through the carrier that you work for, but when you're spending $165,000 of space and you start doing the math of not only what the capital cost is of that money, but then all of the operating costs of the staff, the utilities, the taxes, the insurance, the cleaning and maintenance, and all of that rolls in. That's why this stuff is it's expensive, right?
You get what you pay for, isn't that what they say?
You do. You really do at the end of the day. So, and here's an analogy that I can give you that I think is very relevant. If you take the average person, we have a program. We have 3 programs that we're weaving into Linehaul Station. So Linehaul Station is basically, it's the same product. It's the same terminal, the same 50 acres, the same quality, the same size and finishes and specs. It's the same at all of them, basically. Now, our first one in West Memphis, in the spirit of transparency, we bought an existing terminal that we're renovating so that we can work through some of the questions that remain and make sure that it's working exactly how we want to. But then we have 50 acres next to it that we plan to build a new construction terminal as this starts to roll out. And then we go to Dallas and Atlanta and Indianapolis and Phoenix. And the whole idea is that this network is woven together for the future of trucking in what I believe will be freight relay. Okay.
Right.
So, but it's I say on the website, built for today, designed for tomorrow. So we've been very cognizant of thinking how trucking may change over the years to come. That's a big conversation all in its own because of drivers' concerns and worries about autonomous and how does that work and does it displace our jobs? And the bottom line is, I think there's a lot of good news for truckers of today and tomorrow relative to all of that. We don't have enough time to hit on all of that, but the three programs that we've put together is One Home, Flex Space, and Freight Relay. Freight Relay will be the follow-on program. So let's just really kind of focus on the first two. So Flex Space, the idea of it is that carriers who may have their own terminals or and drivers use them, but they don't have them upgraded, or they're smaller ones, or they're this, or they're that, or they're out of the way and they're not in the right spots. And, one of the CEOs of a big major carrier told me one day, he said, Jeff, no matter where I put a terminal, it's in the wrong spot.
Right.
And I kind of laughed about that. And I go, I can see that. Right. But so, in today's world of being a shared economy kind of business model for a lot of different things, right? The Ubers, the Airbnbs, the NetJets, all of it. And that's what country clubs were based on, a shared economy model. No one owned that country club other than the daily fee deals, but the really nice private ones, it was member owned. It was member controlled, right? You became a member of it. And, because you're not going to play golf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're only going to play once a week, twice a week, whatever. Leaves room for someone else to play once a week, twice a week, whatever. Same here. We build these terminals and this network of infrastructure for carriers and brokers who maybe need to build a terminal network of their own, right? So they're using this as opposed to going out and spending $15 million for 10 acres and building a terminal and being in at $165,000 of space. And then the terminal sits there 80% empty, which it should be because the trucks need to be on the road and the wheels turning in order to create asset utilization and productivity, generating revenue. That's what they should be doing. But here, instead, what they can say is, one carrier says, I want 5 spaces. Another one wants 3 spaces. Another one wants 2 spaces. Another one only wants 180 days a year, a use of per year kind of a deal. So we set it up as flex space because it's a lot more cost effective for carriers and brokers. And then with that, we are telling carriers and brokers, look, buy a pass for your best drivers. Maybe it's part of your performance program, your rewards program, right? And incenting them to do a great job and to always have your back as a carrier. Find those drivers, incent them, take care of them. And instead of wasting $8,000 to $15,000 a year on driver turnover, which is basically what it costs every time a driver is turned over, instead, take the money, invest it in a membership for your best drivers. And then the dues are inexpensive at that point, right? Because they have a membership, they pay the dues, the driver gets to use this. Give that driver 30 days to use this year, right? And if they do this, and this, and they perform the way you want, give them another 30 days next year. Add to it. So now they have 60 days. Maybe the third year, they get to 90 days. Fourth year, 120 days. Do you think drivers would stick around with carriers and brokers that did that for them? My bet is they would.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Right?
You give
the rest
your
of the package
drivers
has to
a
be
country
fair.
club. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And now they know that this is a company that really has my back as a driver. I mean, really respects me. Not a one day throw a hot dog or burger on the grill driver appreciation day kind of garbage. I'm talking about respecting me every day by giving me a great place to go, to be safe, to not have to, be strapping a bar from my steering wheel to the door because I'm worried about who's going to break in. These are your members. These are your cohorts, right?
Right.
And so we keep the bad actors out. We keep the good people in. We take care of them in the right way. That's the mission, right? And the goal should be that the carriers and brokers pay for it for the drivers. And they do it because driver turnover reduces. They save that money. They can put it in something that better serves them. And by the way, when the carriers and brokers do this, their membership fee is refundable. It's refundable. Okay. It's not they write a check and the money's gone like you waste with driver turnover, right? You spend if your turnover costs are $8,500 a year, which is what ATRI says they are on average. That's money that's flushed. It's gone. If they put the money into the membership and then the dues are low, the cost of operating it, are very reasonable, right? And then they get that money back as a refundable membership when they decide they no longer want it and they exit out. It's the same way that country club models work. Members come in, they have an initiation fee, they get access to it, they pay monthly dues. When they're done, a new member comes in, that member leaves, they have a refundable fee that comes back to them. Boom, they're done. Simple as that. Same basic business model. That's what we're doing. And that's good for drivers. So the second piece is a program that we call One Home. I'm so excited about that stuff. I just can't tell you, because drivers think that this is all going to fall back on them, and it's not. Yeah. That's the cool part, right? Yeah. So the second piece is called One Home. And One Home is designed for truckers that, basically don't have a family living at home, right? Might be them and their spouse, or maybe they're single or whatever. Now, if you have kids, you're certainly not going to be able to do something like this, because where do they all sleep? You can't put them all in the cab of your truck. And how do they get to school? And, all of those kinds of things, right?
Right.
I've raised a family with 3 boys. So yeah, I get it.
I think when we talked about this, the ideal model will be the single or the married people who are temporarily living in their truck. That's their home,
right?
At the time, and you're going to give them an alternative for when they're ready to park for a little bit.
That's exactly right. So, if you take a typical home or apartment today, right? Doesn't really matter if you own it or rent it, whatever. You add up your costs of what the home itself costs, along with the utilities, along with the maintenance, the snow plowing, if you're in the north, the lawn mowing, the painting, the flowers, all that stuff. And then having an off-site parking spot for your truck when you come home, we estimate that number to be somewhere around 20 grand a year, right? $1,800 a month, roughly. 16, 18, whatever. And so, and drivers are paying that 365 days a year, right? But yet they're only home 60 days. So if you had $1,800 a month cost for your housing expenses, your basic cost of living expenses here, $1,800 a month divided by 30 days, that's $60 a day. Okay. And you pay it 365 days a year. What if you had that and decided, particularly for, you think about young truckers and how this could compound for them. But you take someone and say, you know what, I don't need that. I'm going to save that money. So if I'm spending $1,800 a month and instead I use Linehaul Station as my home, now I'm only paying for the days that I actually use it. If that's 60 days a year, it's 60 days of use. That's what you pay for. If it's 90 days, it's 90 days of use. We think that the typical driver could save about 15 grand a year from what normal cost of housing are, right?
And you get all the amenities of the country club style terminal, plus you have additional things available for that specific group. Correct.
Exactly. And you don't get those amenities in a typical rental home, right? You don't have a members grill with people taking care of you. You don't have a sky deck. You don't have a fitness center. I mean, maybe some apartments you got, kind of a chintzy fitness center. But you don't have all these really cool areas to hang out and get your hair cut and whatever, right? You don't have, think about the driver that comes home and they only have 60 days a year and they come in for the weekend, and the first thing they have to do is go get their truck fixed. So they got to get in the car, go get their truck, go to the service spot, sit in a crappy waiting room all day for the truck to get done, bring the truck back, go home. You wasted your entire day.
Yep.
But here, instead, you get an alert on your phone, almost like think of it like a restaurant reservation that says, hey, your table's ready. Hey, your spot's ready for your truck to come in. They go down, they take their truck, they drive it in. The service is happening. They go up to the club and hang out. There's no time wasted whatsoever, right? They get it all done right there. So, and I think carriers will love that for their drivers because one of my friends for a big carrier told me one day, he says, Jeff, our trailers would come in and, we'd badge them and license them and do all that kind of stuff. And we'd send them out. We wouldn't see that trailer for 10 years. We have no idea where it is. I hear the stories of these repair shops where, they fleece the drivers like crazy. They'll tell them the turbo's bad and it was a hose clamp, right? But they try to get them to pay for a $5,000 turbo or whatever, right? So
I hear stories like that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're either ripping them off on the labor rates or they're lying to them about what really needs to get fixed. And, my dad was a car dealer. In a small town in southern Minnesota. I worked in the back of the shop. I did brake jobs. I replaced hoses and fan belts and worked on radiators and oil changes and all of that stuff. I get how shops work. I get what it is to be honest, to tell somebody the truth. Here's all it really is. This is a $10 fix, not a $1,000 fix, right? But you also keep them safe. And if those tires are bad, they need to understand why they're bad and see it with their own eyes. And you take care of your members. We take care of our members like it's our own equipment. That's the mentality that makes the difference, right? And philosophically, I think that'll be extremely refreshing for our members that come in and are using this. And it just, all of it gets me so doggone excited about what it's going to be. So the one home deal, you're right. They can't get those amenities at home. So they get all these amenities. Now, here's what's really cool. If you think about, if you could save that 15 grand a year. Now I'm talking about someone that has a current apartment or home and they've just decided, I think I like this idea. I'd rather not waste all that money on it. And if they want to keep it, I get that too. I get people that want that spot. To me, especially if I was young, I would say, look, trucking's a lifestyle. How many times have we heard that, right? Trucking's a lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
You live in your truck. Well, the first thing I would do is pimp out my cab. Like it would be, my sleeper would be so damn nice. I mean, I'd have the best mattress, the best linens, the softest pillows, the warmest comfort, all of that. And, the TV and everything set up. That's where I'd spend the money, is in my cabin. Make sure that that's nice, first of all. Now so that's my master bedroom, right? Now Linehaul Station is my home. And that's where I eat. That's where I hang out with other drivers. It's where, I've got all these fabulous amenities that just makes me feel good about who I am and what I do. I pull into the space. I'm not worried about someone taking off my left front fender and causing $5-6 grand worth of damage, because the spaces are extra wide. I plug my truck into shore power. I go in, I have this experience. And by the way, in our One Home program, a recent addition that we did to our amenity package is we are adding in an outdoor pool and hot tub area.
Oh, I didn't know that part. I was thinking storage, right? Because when we talked, you were going to offer storage facilities, but pool and hot tub.
Yeah. So
that's awesome, actually.
We have this walkway that kind of connects the field of parking to the front building where the Outriders Club and all the services and amenities are, right? And there's this walkway that's landscape and it's pavers, right? And we call it the Legends Walk. It's the Legends of Trucking, right? And so you walk up the Legends Walk, and as you're approaching the big, LH glass doors, right, in the front of the building, you walk past the pool and hot tub area. And then on the other side of the walkway, are cornhole courts. So you can, throw bags out there, right? So
Right.
that's all there. And I felt like, I kind of hate using the resort characterization because drivers that maybe think it's too foofy, but it is. I gotta call a spade a spade. It's that kind of quality. It's resort level amenities, right?
I'm foofy, and I'm what's the word they use now? Bougie, right?
Yeah,
So
bougie,
I
sure.
have a certain lifestyle that I maintain outside of trucking before I started driving.
Yeah,
I drive a BMW. I have a certain. I pick
yeah,
a hotel. I have, I only do higher right. My sheets matter to me. The proximity of a Starbucks matters to me, and I'm
yeah,
not the only one out there.
yeah.
And
No,
so we don't want a Super 8 experience, we don't want roach motels. We want nice.
okay.
And
So you know what we
so
call
you're
it?
catering to that certain. Yeah.
I,
What do you
again,
call it?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go and finish,
You're
please.
fine, you're fine. No. So we want a certain caliber, and we pay for it. So what you're offering, is throwing that pool and hot tub at me. That is not too much. I'm going, yay, because have you seen, I'd love to have a pool on the road. I'd love
Right.
to when I was out there. Of course, I'm not out there anymore, but when I was out there, I would have loved if I was taking a weekend to have that availability.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just makes you feel better all the way around. So
Oh, yeah.
the funny part is, we jokingly kind of call it the Rig Carlton.
The Rig Carlton.
The
That is
Rig,
great. That's great. I like
right?
that.
I
I
mean,
like
it,
that.
it kind of really wraps it all up into one nice little package with a bow that says, "Here's what you get." Right? Because
Yeah.
it will feel like that. And that's why, I've had so many say, "Oh, you're just another truck stop," or, drivers are going to
Oh,
just
no.
destroy it in a month, or they're going to do this, or they're going to do that. And I push back on that. I think it's just, it's so, it just hurts me thinking about how many drivers they've just gotten tainted from the negative experiences in their life, associated with trucking and how they've been treated. And I get it, but I'm more of a glass is half full kind of guy, right? I really believe that trucking is not lost. The glory days of what were there, which everybody talks about, those can be restored. You just have to have leadership that's willing to do it. Okay.
Right.
And the reason that our top 10 truckers referral program is so important and so powerful is because if all of a sudden, I mean, just picture this for a second, Tamie. There's 500,000 drivers that become members of Linehaul Station. And by the way, the membership for drivers is free to the Outriders Club. And we will have, this driver portal where you can build a professional profile. We're working on things with safety for carriers that kind of have to prove up themselves to brokers because of, the recent Supreme Court case with C.H. Robinson and Montgomery, and how that affects, drivers that are or carriers, I guess, that are either have no safety rating or they have a dinged safety rating, a conditional safety rating, right? And so how do you combat that with the brokers out there to show them that you are safe? Because FMCSA is not, there's no real continuing education program for CDL holders, right? For
Right.
safety. I mean, big companies do some of that. But when you're talking about the broad market of trucking companies that are less than 100 trucks, a lot of them don't have those kind of programs, right? So we're thinking in advance of how do we create this platform in a way where you augment as an individual, you take responsibility yourself with voluntary inspections and keeping records of those in a repository that can turn into a dossier that you can send to a broker and say, here's why I am a preferred driver. Like, I've documented my continuing education about safety. I've documented all of my maintenance records. I've documented all the inspections, and I don't do one inspection a year. I do 4. Or I do this, or I do that. Like Landstar has an elevated inspection kind of a program, right? So I think about the many ways that we can help drivers build that way, and it's permeated throughout our entire operations, our entire offering, to be able to create that. So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the first location that's getting ready to open, because I know we're kind of winding down on time here. So you have a grand opening coming up.
Yes, we do. It's not really a grand opening. We're having an open house. And if you would like to join us, okay, that's the day, Tuesday. I'm taking this bus tour down with this guy that learned in a bus. He's been driving for 40 years. He's a Landstar driver. He's got a beautiful truck. And he just refurbished a 40-year-old bus, Greyhound bus, and he's turning it into this rolling road show that he calls Back Home Again. John Hiley is his name. And so we're taking that down on Tuesday to West Memphis. Our new signs go up on Monday. The Linehaul Station will have a big 70-foot high standard, Linehaul Station, yada, yada, yada. And if you know the West Memphis area, we are just north of the Pilot truck stop. Okay, so we're 40 and 55 kind of come together. Southland Drive, Martin Luther King Drive. We're on Martin Luther King, just off of I-40, just north of the Pilot. You'll see the big sign up there. On Wednesday, we're going to host kind of a soft open house. We don't have everything finished in there, but we're a long ways away. We're along the path and getting things done. And we wanted to drive in. I think we've got about 65 spots that we can put drivers up for the night. It's going to be free. We're going to grill some food, chips, beverages, all of that. Sit outside, talk trucking, have fun, tour the building, see the driver's lounge, see the shop space, and just kind of what we have there and where the future new build will go. So that's going to be on Wednesday afternoon. And if you want to participate, you can either call Trevor, who is coordinating, at area code 602-878-8000, or shoot him a text, even easier, right? So you can do that, or you can email to members@linehaulstation.com and just ask us to reserve you a spot. You want to be there. So, so that's going to happen on Wednesday. And then, towards mid-July, we'll have the gate access control systems in and kind of everything ready to go. We're in the middle of finalizing some details with our fleet services team to open the shop. And, what our temporary driver's lodge is going to be open. The big one is not yet, but you're going to get a great feel for what it is. I'm going to be there. I'll answer any questions that anyone has. And it's 1212 Martin Luther King Drive, 1212 Martin Luther King Drive in West Memphis.
What's your projected open date for the
about July 15th? Yeah. Okay. That'll be the first one.
Oh, and when's a big building supposed to be done?
So, though it's really going to be based on demand, Tamie, every one of our locations are based on demand. So we're actively out there talking to drivers and carriers about where would you like to be, right? It doesn't do me a lot of good, and there's certain constraints, right, with land and what's available where and zoning and all of that kind of stuff. But that's what I've done for over 40 years. So I know how to do that piece. But, we identify a spot, a location, and then we go back to the market and say, are you interested in doing this? And if you are, we need to get you in the system. We need to get you as a member. We hit a certain threshold, and that's where we pull the trigger on those locations.
Okay.
I've never, ever been a build it and they will come kind of a person. I'm building it very methodically to the market needs, to the market demand that says, and that's why having the drivers involved early is very important, because now all of a sudden, giving the power back to the drivers, you have 500,000 drivers that become members, right? So then we're talking to the carriers. By the way, they go to their individual brokers and carriers that they work with and say, here, I'm going to send you a package about Linehaul Station. This is why we want you to be part of it. I'm done parking on the off ramps and unsafe spots, period.
Right.
I'm not going to live that way anymore, right? So let's say, for example, that carrier says, yeah, no, sorry, Tamie, I can't help you out here. We don't have enough money. We can't, can't do this, can't do that. Then your option as a driver is, okay, I'm going to find one that will, right? I don't care how long I've been here. I'm going to find one that really has my back. So in our driver portal, we are listing all the carriers and brokers that become members of Linehaul Station that are buying passes. The drivers will all be able to see that list. That'll be a public list in the driver's portal for our members only. Okay. They'll be able to see those carriers and brokers, but the carriers and brokers can't see them. They remain anonymous. Okay. So no one can go in there and start, doing a scavenger hunt to steal everybody else's drivers. That's not how it works. What they do is they step up and say, I'm a carrier that really cares, and I'm already doing this for my drivers. And if you're a new driver that's looking for a new home, here's what we'll do for you.
Okay. So you can see what carriers are investing in you and giving you this option.
Absolutely. Okay. And we're telling the carriers and brokers that. And, I'll close with this, which I think is a super interesting story. I've met with a lot of the mega carriers, obviously. And, I know a lot of the CEOs of different size carriers and brokers across the country. And I've had a lot of conversation, and absolutely every one of them have been generally enthusiastic about what we're doing because they know we need it. The guys the two guys that run Walmart's transportation group across the country, I met with them one day along with 3 of their other people, and they said, Jeff, you didn't ask for this, but we're going to tell you right now, don't ever, ever, ever give up on this, because this is exactly what the industry needs. Exactly. And we're not going to change our network to adapt to yours, but we will plug holes in our network and fill it with locations that you have to help serve us, right? That was one interesting thing. Another one said, if this was a third meeting that I met with them, they said, Jeff, the first, and this is a CEO, COO, and CFO of the company. They said, this is third meeting. And they said, the first time that you came in here, you laughed, and we all looked at each other and said, we need to keep our eyes on this guy. And we laughed. And they said, you came in for a second meeting. And that time we did the same thing. We looked at each other and we said, we need to keep our eyes on this guy. They said, but we weren't laughing that time. Now you're here for a third time. And we're telling you, we're point blank concerned. And I'm like, what? Like, really? I mean, this is a formidable carrier. Okay. I said, you are a major factor in the truckload industry with monstrous revenue. I'm a guy with a laptop. At that point, literally, that's all it was. It was me. I said, I'm a guy with a laptop. What in the world are you concerned about? And they said, well, if you pull this off, and quite frankly, we think you will. We think you've got the goods to do it based on all the questions we've asked. And if you pull this off, you are going to level the playing field for the entire industry. The fact that we have terminals that drivers can use will no longer matter, because you've created an ecosystem that it's ubiquitous and it's agnostic in the sense that any carrier, any broker, any driver, any size can use your network to build their program better. And I got to thinking about that, and I said, because at first I was like, I'm a resource to you guys, a tool, right? I'm just another screwdriver in the case. But after I thought about it, I go, my God, I think they're right. I think that this will have such a ripple effect across the industry that a lot of carriers will be looking at it differently and saying, how do we participate? Because we need to play ball or we're not
Well,
going to
yeah.
get the best drivers.
Yeah, and like I told you in our meeting, just not even the carriers. I mean, for the owner operators and the individuals who are making trucking a full-time thing, you give them a nice place to call home
Yeah.
off the road. And I think that's a great niche as well to fill.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a lot of drivers, who they're perfectly happy with McDonald's and their Xbox in the cab and loves parking, right? They're
Yep.
perfectly happy
Yeah.
with that.
Sure.
But then you
Sure.
have that other driver who wants to come in, work out, take a shower, put some fresh clothes on, and watch the game in the sports, area.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
they want to play poker with some other drivers and swim a lap in the pool, and that's fine too.
And that's who I want to hang out with. I cannot wait for these to be open and to be able to tour around and go, face to face and talk with the drivers and sit down and break bread with them and hear their stories. And it's just so much fun. And it's what's interesting as I've been looking at our social media following, which is really starting to get a lot of traction. And I've gone to individuals that are starting to follow, and I'm looking at their Facebook page, and I'm like, this is a cool driver. Like, I love this person. Just, I look at a little bit of what they've posted, their personality. I love hearing the positive feedback from the drivers that are out there. I ignore the negative ones. I'm just like, whatever, I
It's
guess
trucking. I mean,
there's a seat
it's
for everyone, right?
it's
So,
trucking.
yeah, it's fucking, yeah, that's for
So,
sure.
well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. If you guys are interested in attending that soft open house next week, he did put out the information. I'll put it on my post as well. You can go to linehaulstation.com, check out the pictures, check out what's coming, keep an eye out for the open house. And hopefully soon we will see more than just West Memphis. We'll see a whole network of these. And it is great to see this kind of real estate development hitting our industry. This is definitely something that I think has a niche and will make a lot of drivers happy.
Yeah, super cool. Hey, thanks, Tammy. Appreciate you sharing the time. And
No problem.
hope all of you drivers are staying safe out there and have a beautiful sunny day.
Yep. This is Tammy. You're checking with Tammy. You guys stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.